Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the number one podcast of the world, the Confessions Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, liking, commenting, subscribing, as always. Today is Friday, May 22nd, and time's flying by. Weather's getting crazy. Summer is brewing here in West Texas. It's been a good week, been a busy week, and yeah, I'm excited for tonight, boys. I'm very excited for tonight. Today is the first stream that we have since we've started our Facebook page. We can't go live on Facebook as of yet, but this is the first time that we're actually being able to go live on there, so that's pretty cool. And just this week alone, a lot of progress has been made. I mean, these past couple of weeks, a lot of progress has been made. We are approaching 200 subscribers. We are, as the moment of this live stream, we are at 189 subscribers.
Let's go.
For the
Congratulations.
Podcast, the number one podcast in the world.
11 away from 200. That second 100 was a lot quicker than that first 100.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was telling Raul, I was like, man, imagine, like, we're pretty much on a 30 subscriber per week base since starting clips. I'm like, man, imagine if we had been doing clips this whole time consistently. But it is what it is. At least we're doing it now. But to think that we were, I don't think I said this last week to the pod. I said it to y'all. But November 2nd, 2025 was whenever we first hit 100 subscribers. And remember, we started streaming in January of 2025. That's whenever we started doing confessions. And we weren't even live streaming. We were doing just, normal recording and uploading. And then, so it took us, almost 11 months, give or take a couple weeks to hit 100 subscribers, right? And then from November 2nd, 2025 to April 17th, 2026, almost 6 months later, about five and a half months, we had gained only 13 subscribers. That's it. We were at 113. That was our pace. Like, basically 2 to 3 a month. And then since April 17th to right now, May 22nd, we are at 189 subscribers, which is, what's the surplus? Jeremy, you're the mathematician here. 113 to 189.
I don't know who got put on the spot, so now I'm a pressure. I don't perform under pressure.
76, I think. 76 or 66.
I was more caught up in the storytelling as well.
But
that was nice.
just to give a brief overview, right? That substantial amount of growth in just a little bit over a month, it trumps anything that we did in all of last year, pretty much.
I don't know if I agree with that. We needed what we went through last year.
Yeah,
it was a necessity to get here.
When I say growth, I mean subscriber wise.
Okay.
I mean just strictly off the data, right?
Okay.
Strictly numbers wise, it's been an incredible amount of growth. So follow us on Facebook. Follow us on if you haven't already, our Facebook page is Confessions Podcast. There on Facebook, and then on Instagram as well, Confessions Podcast Official, I believe, or just Confessions Podcast. I don't know, one of those. And
Soon to be on Spotify as well.
Soon to be on Spotify this coming week. Now that I've gotten all the Facebook set up out of the way, now I can focus in on Spotify. So this coming week, we will be going on Spotify, and that's a request that's been. Oh my gosh, that's been requested so many times for us to be put on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so that y'all can listen to it without having to have your phone open on YouTube. So this week we are finally doing our part, our due diligence, and finally getting.
I've had a lot of people ask me too, because they can even listen to it while driving, commuting. People drive a lot, or at the gym, or anything, instead of just having sit down and watch. Like, what the type of podcast you put on when you're about to eat, just in time, right? But we want to be that type of podcast you could put on at the gym or when you're commuting to work or whenever. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think part of being on every platform, getting exposure in all different types of avenues, because the way that I see it is there's audiences on every platform that we haven't reached, right? There's people that listen to podcasts solely on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and we haven't even reached those people yet. There was the largest social media platform in the world is Facebook, and it took us over a year to get on Facebook. And since we started it just a couple of days ago, we're at almost 140 followers in just a couple of days. You know what I mean? Got to keep spamming those invites. Keep spamming those invites. Everyone,
that invite thing was
keep spamming those invites.
Rapid. Yeah. I was like, man, it went from 0 to 300 people or 300. I was like, dang, that's a lot.
Yeah, so
300 or 100?
137 was the last I checked.
137.
Yeah, which of course I have everything. Like everything's on my phone. So I'm constantly checking it, constantly, trying to get everything uploaded. And that's one thing that I think I've learned this week specifically is just now that we have, which is weird because just adding one platform, it's like an extra addition. And now instead of taking 15 minutes or so to upload everything to like 15 to 20, now it's taking 20 to 30 minutes to get everything uploaded correctly on each platform. So streamlining that process, getting everything done for ahead of time, for multiple days ahead of time, that's something that I started working on, and it's been nice doing that. But this past week was a struggle. It was a struggle having to try to get everything done that day. Yeah, it was a struggle getting all those clips uploaded and everything, but I'm excited for this coming week.
Yeah, that one grew kind of fast too, because I think that's the platform that, or like you said, our tias and tios use, our family members. So that one's gonna be more family oriented and that support. So, but it's still another avenue. So
it might be a little bit more of our target audience as well. Now that I think about it, just because there's a lot of degenerate stuff on like Instagram, TikTok, and it's more entertaining.
Yeah, we don't belong there. Or that's where we should be, actually, though.
I was thinking about getting on LinkedIn. I was like, shoot, that's a whole nother platform right there. Think about all the people. And I was also thinking about, like, connections-wise, business. You know what I mean? Like, once we get people that want to start maybe being sponsors, or maybe we start connecting and building partnerships with other brands. You know what I mean? I think that LinkedIn is actually a good move, too. So I think I'm actually going to put us on LinkedIn as well.
I've never used LinkedIn.
Me neither, but in the business world, like being around, especially my broker, she's like, LinkedIn, you got to be on LinkedIn. Like you got to be to make those connections. It's worth it. It's worth it. And it's kind of how we mentioned who is our target audience, right? And I think who do we eventually want to be able to be in the same rooms as? People who have entrepreneurs, people who are in the media game, people who have built successful businesses, and also happen to be followers of Christ. And so I think that's people that we would like to be in the same room as eventually, like to talk to those people, because I think part of what you mentioned is that this podcast is multi-purpose, but inspiring people, I think, is a big part of it, and bringing on people who have the ability to do so, like inspire them to chase their dreams and get it out the mud. I think that's something that we could explore and make those connections more so on platforms like that, So
I never used it either, but I have heard a lot about it, so it must be something worth checking out.
No, definitely.
That's the business platform, I guess you'd say.
It is. It's like the professional form of Facebook. And then again, like, think about it. There's however many, maybe let's just say, even if it's only 500 million users or 100 million users, that's 100 million people. If we can just pull 0.01% of that audience towards us, I mean, bro, how massive is that? Like, if you really think about it, on every social platform, there's hundreds of millions, if not billions of people. And we're not even asking for half. We're not asking for a quarter. We're not asking for 10%. We're not even asking for 1%. We're asking for less than that. And that in and of itself is thousands upon thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers and subscribers. You know what I mean? So it's just the matter of being out there on every platform.
It's another branch to add.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I think it's time to get started.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. I think Jeremy prayed last week, so I think it's you this week.
It's on me. Okay. All right. Dear Lord, just wanted to pray to you today to give you praise and thanks, of course, for another beautiful day, another blessed day. We ask that you continue to guide us, that you continue to protect us, and you continue to lead us in your name, Lord. We ask that you bless today's podcast and the people that are viewing it. And we ask that you look after them as well, Lord, and lead them down the correct path, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen and amen. And I brought this up to you, Raul, but I wanted to say it to Jeremy real quick. It's okay if it's live, but I want to challenge us today to each make 10 clip-worthy moments.
Oh yeah.
All right, and the way that I explained it to Raul was it's the same way you structure a thought whenever you're trying to talk to someone, right? You have your hook, your subject, and your close. Your hook is just to give a brief overview of what you're going to talk about, or it could be like your tagline, whatever, Like, for example, I said to Raul, an example was like, this is something that Jesus taught me this week, right? And then you have your subject, which is what you're going to talk about, and then you have your close to where people know that you're wrapping up your thought. And so just whenever you have your thought, whatever, and you can even preface it by saying this. I think this is one thing I've actually been wanting. I thought about this a long time ago, but whenever we want to say something that we think is profound, we can say, "Hey boys, I got a confession to make." Man,
objection.
Hey, I got a confession. You know what I mean? I think saying something like that, like our tagline, because we're confessions.
That's
bro.
good. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's good.
Say, "Hey boys,
like
I got a confession," or "Yo, hey, I got a confession to make," and then you say, whatever you think is profound or whatever.
I know I have a bad habit of jumping like from one topic to another topic, or going back 20 minutes to a conversation that we had. So definitely something to work on.
I mean, podcasting in and of itself is a skill. Speaking is a skill.
Yeah.
And so whenever you're, we're still learning. I mean, when you think about it, this is our 58th episode. We're only 58 episodes into the number one podcast of World Compassion. If you subscribe, if you haven't already, but we're only 58 episodes into it. And there's people that have been doing hundreds, thousands of episodes. And then they learn how to structure their wording on the fly, and they're not even like necessarily trying to make clips, but it's just so that people can comprehend what they're saying. It's so that it's more easily digestible for the viewers. Yep. And so it's a skill. Absolutely, it's a skill, and I think it's great for all of us to practice that.
I think the biggest thing for me is when I'm thinking about it too, when I'm listening to y'all stories, sometimes I make a really good point in the beginning of the story, so I have to remember all the things that I want to say or address. Like
absolutely, I get
that's probably the hardest thing that I've struggled with. I'm like, dang, that's not all my points, but I don't want to look dumb and be all quiet and just brain fart. But
me, like y'all be telling a story and then I'll be just so absorbed by it. I'm just listening. I'm literally a viewer at that point. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot.
And I was just thinking I'm thinking of questions to ask, or I just want to touch on that, and then sometimes I can't remember it all. But that means it's a good story, though.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to get further along our journey, though, and take a look back to these days. I even want to take a look back at the very beginning of our journey on this podcast to see how much improvement we actually have done.
Bro, I can't believe we actually did 30-minute episodes or whatever. Like, bro, we had our episodes short. Our first couple of episodes, it was under an hour. Our first 10 or something like that.
I think the first one that we did together, that I was part of at least, was in your shop. Now.
Oh, we've been all over the place,
bro.
We did those, and then we went to your
house,
the back shack. Didn't we do one there?
No, we didn't do one.
We never did.
We like
that was when we first started. We did a few in there.
Yeah, we did a few in there. Me and Jeremy.
But that spot. Then I know we did a few in the shop, and then we did so many. We did like 1 or 2 in your living room.
Yeah, we did more than that actually.
We did a few there.
And then in your living room.
Then we transferred it over here to the shop finally, and we just stuck to it.
Yeah.
Then we upgraded.
And then now we're about to upgrade again.
Yeah, God bless.
God bless.
It's been a journey.
It's been a journey, dude. That's crazy.
Thing is, too, another cool thing is like the viewers have been able to see this.
I'm not even gonna lie. I used to have to take a drink, like a shot or two, before we even started the podcast. I used to be nervous.
I remember that.
I remember that.
Dang, let me take a shot or two. Let me get a little gooby and.
I know talking would sound fake and practiced, and like you would have had notes and everything instead of just.
It sounds here like if you breathe air, you're late. You see, if he didn't win, that means he loses. It's like.
Well, I don't think we have access to the ones that we did before, right?
In
the libraries and the.
I
mean, the living rooms.
Didn't we lose some?
But that was like we lost our first channel, the Father Derek channel that we had.
Mm-hmm.
The first one we lost it, but that's
the podcast at
we
least.
Started all over.
The podcast part, at least, even when we were doing them in the back, the barber shop area, those are still there too.
No, those are gone.
Those are gone too. Those are on the original channel.
Derek channel here.
Thanks. So we're doing 2 in 1.
What do you mean?
We're doing both the podcasts and like Follow Derek.
Yeah.
You know, the YouTube in one.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like that.
Came a long ways.
I didn't think about separating it. Yeah.
Came a long ways.
It is. It's crazy because like that channel morphed. It was like just vlogs, like just me by myself, and then it was me and Jeremy doing like productions, and then we did the podcast, and then it died, and then after that,
Then it died.
Then it died. Yeah, but
then we came back with version 2.0.
Yeah,
with better updates, better graphics, better
everything.
Another
better man.
Another edition as well. We're all joined.
Yeah,
on that point.
We're all joined, and then we've been together ever since. It's kind of crazy to think about.
That's worthy of a cigar right there, and the whiskey already within itself. Shoot.
Yeah. But today we're in Genesis 13, continuing our journey in the Old Testament. These are all pretty short. So, and then again, what's different about this, right, is like it's telling a story, like what's been happening. And so I'm curious to see if like there always will be room for like commentary on it, because sometimes it's just telling us what happened and it's not necessarily trying to tell you a message within it. Like I'm sure we can pull messages, but the abundance as compared to Proverbs, where it's literally so much, and then Jesus talking, it's literally Jesus talking. There's a million things that we could take from that. So I think, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we won't have that much commentary, but if that's the case, then maybe we can read 2 chapters, or we'll see how it goes. But
which one is it?
Genesis 13.
Chapter 13?
Yeah,
just
chapter 13.
Okay.
Chapter 13. So I'll go ahead and take it. Abraham and Lot, or Abram. So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev, he and his wife and all that belonged to him, and Lot with him. Remember, right before this, they went to Egypt, and they got kicked out because Abram said that his wife was his sister, and Pharaoh took her, and God punished him for it. So he got kicked out. And so that's what's going on. Now, Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. He went on his journeys from the Negev as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there formerly. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents. And the land could not sustain them while dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to remain together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. Now the Canaanite and Perizzite were dwelling then in the land. So Abram said to Lot, "Please let there be no strife between you and me, nor between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If to the right, then I will go to the if to the left, then I will go to the right, or if to the right, then I will go to the left." Lot lifted up his eyes and saw all the valley of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt as you go to Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the valley of Jordan, and Lot journeyed eastward. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled in the cities of the valley and moved his tents as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked exceedingly, and sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see, I will give it to you and to your descendants forever. I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth, so that if anyone can number the dust on the earth, then your number of descendants can also be numbered. Arise, walk about the land through its length and breadth, for I will give it to you." Then Abram moved his tent and came and dwelt by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Should I continue? What do you think?
Yeah, because I believe this chapter 13 is more storytelling.
Okay.
You know, I like the only lesson that I could probably take away from this chapter is where Abram said to Lot that, hey, if you go to the left, I'll go to the right, and if you go to the right, I'll go to the left. So I think that's pretty humble of Abram to do so. I think maybe there's a lesson within that, especially when it comes to brothers, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'll continue in 14.
Yeah.
And I'll finish out 14, and then we'll stop from there.
Yeah.
War of the Kings. And it came about in the days of Amraphel, the king of Shinar, Arok, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, that they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shebemer, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these came as allies to the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, but the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Asheroth Karnim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emin and Shavik. Bro, these are crazy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
So you got the hard words.
Yeah. And the Horites in the Mount Seir as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to And are we back? We back. How do we sound? I don't know how we sound.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's the devil. All right, I'm just going to continue. I'm going to continue.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
That's where we cut out.
That's where we cut out, yeah. Because of all the crazy names, bro.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. It was like, hold on, let me catch up.
Okay. Then they turned back and came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, yeah, we're good, and conquered the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who lived in Hazazon Tamar, and the kingdom of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, came out, and they arrayed for battle against them in the valley of Siddim, against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arok, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they fell into them. But those who survived fled to the country, the hill country. Then they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food supply, and departed. They also took Lot, Abram's nephew, and his possessions, and departed, for he was living in Sodom. Then a fugitive came and told Abram the Hebrew. Now he was living by the oaks of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and these were allies with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken, he led out his trained men, born in his house, 318, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. He divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is north of Damascus. He brought back all the goods, and also brought back his relative Lot with his possessions, and also the women and the people. Then after his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer, the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom, who went out to meet with him at the valley of Shaveh, that is the king's valley, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. Now he was a priest of the God Most High. He blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. He gave them 1/10 of all. The king of Sodom said to Abram, Give the people to me and take the goods for yourself. Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have sworn to the Lord God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or a sandal thong or anything that is yours. For you fear you would say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing except what the young men have eaten and the share of men who went with me. Aner, Eshol, and Mamre, let them take their share. Proverbs chapter 13, or not Proverbs. I'm so used to saying that. Genesis chapter 13 and 14.
Yeah.
You name now.
Not gonna lie, 14. That was a lot.
That was a lot. It was a lot of names.
Yeah, that was the thing about it. It was naming every single king that fought in the battle.
Yeah.
So I think that's what made it a little bit of a tongue twister for you, for sure.
Yeah, that was difficult, but I was just going through. I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna go all in.
Try.
I'm gonna say these names like I know what they pronounce like. But from what I could tell here, just to give a brief overview of what happened. So, Abram and Lot separated because I guess they had too much. Each of them had too much possessions, and their herdsmen were fighting against each other. And so Abram had said, let's just go ahead and go our separate ways. And it seemed like Abram, being how you mentioned generous, said, you pick wherever you want. Go wherever you want. I'll go my way. I'm not going to argue with you. It sounds like that's what he did. And so Lot saw the land that looked beautiful, watered and everything, which was Sodom. And of course, we know later on that Sodom and Gomorrah gets destroyed because of the wickedness. And Abram, of course, chose the other side. And so whenever that happened, they separated, and there was a war going on against kings, a bunch of kings. It says 5 against 4 kings. And while they were at war against one another, Lot, being in Sodom, was one of the cities that got taken over. And so Lot got kidnapped. And whenever Abram had heard of this, he said, all right, I'm going to take my guys. It said 313 or something like that. 318 men. And he went out to go fight against the kings that had taken Lot and won. He defeated 318 versus however many kings. It was 4 against 5. So either 4 kings in their armies or 5 kings in their armies, and defeated them all. And whenever they came back, he had Lot with, his women, his possessions, or all the women that were with him, and the possessions of the people that were in his tribe that had been kidnapped. And it says here that the king of Salem brought out bread and wine and blessed Abram. And he said that he could take all the goods for himself. He just wanted the people. But Abram denied him and said, no, because if you say that, if I take the goods from you, then you can say that you made me rich. And that's not what I want. What I want is that for God to take the credit. God's the one that made me rich. So I'm going to deny that offering, and I'm only going to take what my men have eaten and what they already have. Everything else, I won't even touch. Everything. You can have everything that we had won from our battle. You can take it all because we want to give the credit to God Most High. I don't want you saying that you made me rich. And that's pretty much what happened. And I think that's actually pretty powerful.
There for a moment too, I didn't even know who Lot was until it explained it in the second. I think we kept going. Because I know we mentioned it last time too when we first read it. They had mentioned Lot, but I didn't know who that was.
The nephew of Abram.
That name was just kind of appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I believe Lot. I know he's tied to what's it called? He's tied to Noah. I believe that he was with Noah after the flood, if my memory serves me correctly. And so, but at this point, what's relevant is Abram, one, just committed I don't know. I guess you could say it's even a miracle. I think I'm not sure if this is correct, but I believe this is one of the many examples of 300 men being a part of an army overtaking, a whole army. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. It's like you ever, the movie 300? I think a lot of what that takes inspiration from a lot of, I know there's other stories, but this may be the story that too is 300 men being all you need in an army to defeat the enemy, no matter how big they are.
It happens kind of a lot too with the Alamo. Happened with the Alamo.
Oh yeah.
Even with the American Revolution.
The American Revolution, bro.
That was we're the underdogs there too.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess as you could point to, I think one of the biggest examples we could take from this particular story, at least the one that points out to me, is someone wanted to bless Abram with an abundance of wealth, right? And he denied it because he said, if you do that, then you'll be able to say you made me rich, and he doesn't want that. And so he said that I have sworn to the Lord God Most High, possessor of all heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or sandal or anything that is yours, for fear you would say I have made Abram rich. And I don't know, I think that maybe you could see that as denying a handout from someone. Maybe they're trying to, give you something, and you're like, you know what? No, I'm gonna do my own thing. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I think about it. I just want to get y'all's thoughts on that.
I think of it as Abram's kind of above that. He sees himself already rich, even though technically, in a way,
I mean, he was rich.
Yeah, he's already rich, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's what most people think when it comes to possession. Exactly how you mentioned earlier with him already being rich by having God on his side, And I think when it mentions that God is granting Abram all this land from him looking north, south, east to west, as far as he can see, he's already winning, so he doesn't need anything more. And I think that's very powerful. And exactly how it's mentioning, I don't want you to say that you have made me rich. I feel as if that's almost like trying to get leverage over Abram, like he's not wanting to allow this king to be able to come back one day and be like, well, hey, I did this for you, so you owe me. And Abram takes a pass on that. So that's how I overall see it. And I think we can kind of take inspiration from that as well, that true wealth doesn't necessarily come from the physical items that people try to give us. We're wealthy because of God. And I think that's a very powerful statement that is said in this chapter.
That's good.
Yo, boys, I have a confession to make. I can relate to Abram. Absolutely. I don't know what the right word for it is. Despise, dislike. I don't know, hate's a strong word, but handouts. When, recently, right? Going back home for a little bit, talking to family, and then have people asking me, hey, what do you need for your new internship? What do you need for next year? What do you need for this, right? And it's all of a sudden, when I graduate and they know that I'm going on to the next step, it wasn't like, he's all talk. That's why I hate when people just talk for me, because if it fails, everybody's quick to say, oh, you failed, but they're never quick to support you and be there for you, right? So I kind of just took it as a grain of salt, but people I haven't talked to in a while asking me if I need anything, and I'm kind of skeptical to accept it, because if I accept it, they're going to be quick to say, oh, hey, remember when I did this for you? So I kind of have a hard time, distinguishing between if they're being genuine or if they're using it as leverage or blackmail, when they see this journey I'm on. Hey, that one time, And then part of me is like, well, if I don't accept it, I'm like, nah, I'm all right. Makes me look like the villain, right? But someone's got to be it, right? But that's just something I'm still kind of conflicted with, because I do, when people ask me, they're like, well, what's going on, what are you doing differently? I say God did, right? So when they're trying to offer me stuff or offer me help, or if it's $20 here or there, I'm like, man, if I take this, please tell me it's genuine of the kindness of your heart, and I'm not gonna hear it later on the road, hey, remember when I gave you $20, remember when I did this for you, remember when I did that for you? Because people are quick to do that.
Actually, I had an encounter with this, and it was a conversation about helping people financially, right? Because I'll tell this, I have a confession to make. There was one time where a family member of mine, hey, this is good.
Yeah, it's good. Right? No, we just need you. It's like full no. Don't force it either now. We're waiting for it.
There was a family member of mine that I had seen at a family reunion, right? mind you, the times that I see this family member every year is maybe once. So I saw him at this family reunion, you know, everything was good and all. And then, you know, a couple months later, I get a random message saying, "Hey, primo, you know, I was wondering if I could borrow some money." You know what I mean? And it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I'm like, "You've never texted me before." And, you know, not to say that we are family, but that's kind of odd for you to hit me up for the first time outside of the family reunion to just ask me for money. And so, you know, I just was like, I don't have the money to give. You know what I mean? I just said that. But I guess you could say the question was, when are you comfortable with giving finances to people who come to you asking for it?
I've actually experienced this quite a few times with old friends of mine when they first come to me and ask me for money, and at first I would give it to them, and because it was genuine, I didn't expect it to ever be given back to me, just because one, it was a small amount, maybe $20, $50 here and there, right? Then I started noticing it becoming a habit, especially with one person. And eventually it came to a point where I couldn't, you know? And similar to your situation, I ended up losing that friend. You know, we haven't spoken in such a long time. And what's crazy about it is that I think it was sometime last year, they actually came back after not speaking for years, hit me up, and asked for more money. And they always had an excuse behind it. It was for whatever reason. And maybe it was true, maybe it wasn't. But similar to you, it rubbed me the wrong way because where, like, in a way, it's the question that rose is, where were you? You know, like, I never asked for anything in return, but you weren't there for me at all in my life. You know, you kind of walked away just because I decided to take a different path. You know, instead of supporting me, maybe even growing with me, you just used me and went your own way. Which, with all due respect, like, I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm not just a bank for someone. That's how I see it. You know, and I don't mind it, especially when it comes to people that I do have a genuine relationship. For example, if you guys were to ever come to me uh, in time of hardship or whatever reason it may be, right? And you guys ask me, okay, hey, well, I wouldn't mind it at all, just because I have a relationship with you guys, and I know that you're not just gonna up and leave me out of nowhere. You know, you guys got my back. You guys have been there with me through some very low times, and surprisingly, you guys have never straight up asked me, "Hey, Raul, can I borrow $100? Hey, can I borrow this money? Can I borrow that money?" So I'm very thankful for that, but that's just, I think, depending on the person who's asking. You know, you can't, if it's coming from a random you haven't seen in a long time, like, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry, but sorry, not sorry," you know?
I haven't really had people ask me for money too much, but when they have, I won't lie. Every time I've said no, like, I'm just like, nah, I can't do it. Or especially because I take a lot, I look a lot into it. Some people just see it as a yes or no. I'm like, okay, well, what are they asking it for? What time is it? You know, what time are they asking me? I've had people text me like 11, 12 o'clock at night, like, "Hey, why do you need $20? You know, I'm not trying to feed no
Go to
bad
bed.
intentions, you know, like." So most of the time I'll say that, but I guess the most I've given money is, of course, that people that I'm close with. So, I mean, it happens plenty of times. You go out to eat, like, "Yeah, I got you," or we go, you know, to an event, you know, bowling, movies, whatever. I guess giving money like that, right? I mean, you don't have to pay for it. I got you, and I don't expect to be paid back because that's just how it is. That's as far as I go, is giving money. But as far as like, hey, if someone's gonna flat out ask me like, "Hey, can I borrow so and so much money for this?" and that requires like a cash app or something like that, most of the time I'll say no. So, but then that gets me asking, when would you ask? What would it take for you to ask for money?
Before we proceed with that, though, I actually have a vision of how I see that, because I don't know. I believe inevitably it will eventually come to a point where people will start asking me for for example, financial help, right? I would like to believe that at that point, they will be able to confide in me enough to explain to me, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I need it. And if I am capable of giving them a solution without actually having to give them my money, then I'm going to give that to them. But if there's just no other way, then okay, so be it, you know? Shout out whoever subscribed or liked.
Shout out whoever subscribed.
Yeah, shout out. But that's how I see that. And then I forgot what other point that it slipped my mind. But yeah, what was the question?
What would it take for you to ask for money? Where would you ever get to that point? Or is your pride and ego too much?
See, I think this is a good question, and I think I can kind of go with this for a little bit while you think. There was a time where I had negative in my bank account, where I had no idea how I was going to be able to pay the bills. How I had no idea if I was going to be able to pay rent. And, I stuck my head down. I worked, 11, 12-hour days, if not more. And then every once in a while, I just would get blessed. Like, I wouldn't ask for nothing. For example, let me tell this story real quick. Recently, I got scammed. And it was kind of it kind of hurt a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't a significant amount of money, but it was enough to be like, damn. And I didn't say nothing to anybody. Really, I told a limited amount of people. I think I maybe even told you, Raul, but if I didn't, then I had gotten scammed. And, I thought I could take it one of two ways. I could say, you know what, I'm going to go the retaliatory route, and I'm going to demand that I'm going to get this money back. I'm going to threaten law enforcement. Or, like I said, you know what, if this person really wanted to scam me out of that money, then you know what, he probably needed it more than I do. So what? $200 to have this person never bother me again? No, I mean, good riddance. And so I was like, you know what? That's between him and God. As far as me, I don't need that money. So you know what? I'm just gonna let it go. And so I let it go. And a few days went by, and then the weekend came, and I was traveling back home. And then my mom calls me and she lets me know. She's like, "Hey, son, I know you're going to Plainview this weekend. I just want to let you know that I left you some money and in my drawer at the house. It's like, that's just for you. And, I just wanted to bless you, son." And when I got home and I checked the amount that she had left, it was the exact amount that I had got scammed for. And to me, I was like, wow, God, like, I didn't even say anything. I didn't say anything. I said, you know what? That's between him and you. I'm gonna keep moving forward, and I know that you're gonna take care of me. And sure enough, I was blessed with the same amount of money that I got scammed for. And I just thought, I was speechless. I was speechless because it's like, this is literally what we had talked about before. The podcast the day before was like, you know what? Every once in a while, God will do something, and he'll show you that he's listening to you, that he sees you, that he hears you. And then I had this whole scam go on, and now my mom just blessed me with money, and it's the exact amount that I got scammed for, and she had no idea that I had recently got scammed. I'm like, wow, this is God. This has to be God. And so for me, that right there just grows my faith that even whenever hard times do come, it wasn't a hard time, it was inconvenience. But even whenever hard times did come, whenever I was struggling, God provided. He always provided. And so even whenever I do go through difficult times financially, God's come through enough to prove to me that I can rely on him and that I don't need to go to somebody else to try to ask for help. Because it's kind of like how Abram's saying right here, then that person will be able to say that they helped me out. And I don't want to do that. I want to say that it's God who got me out of this hole. It's God who got me out of the dark time that I was in. And even whenever it didn't make sense, even whenever people might even have told me, hey, you should ask for help. Maybe you could call it pride. Maybe you could call it ego. I'm okay with that. But God is the one that carried me out of that. And whenever I came out of it on the other side, and I stand here today and saying, you know what, finances are good, I point to God and say, he's the one that got me out of that hole, not some other man, not some other woman, not some person. And even if it's a family member or a friend or whatever, I don't want to give credit to anyone other than God. So that's why when it comes to how deep in debt would I have to be to ask someone for money, I don't think I would, because I have God by my side, and that's why I would say probably not. Never.
That's a beautiful story. That's very commending, because I know me, and my chest gets hot just losing $10, $20, $50. And 200 might not seem like a lot, right? But to most people, but that's, it still hurts to lose something like that. I know when I was, like I've lost, misplaced $20 here. I think the most I've ever misplaced is 50, and I, lost my mind, flipping the whole house upside down trying to find it, retracing my steps, and I never find it. And here I was worried about $50, $20, when it could be way worse. And now that we're on that growth journey, that's now you gave me something to ponder on and think about. Hey, is losing this money, it's gonna be okay, compared to back then. I'd have been freaking out.
Yeah.
So that's I can learn from it too, and I learned live.
And and genuinely, bro, it's like I feel pity for that person, because it's like, really, you had to go around this way to scam somebody out of it. And you know what? I'll take fault for it too. My how do you say naive in the verb sense? My nativity, I guess you would say. So I do take blame for that happening, and so I took it as a lesson. And $200 for a lesson, and to get someone out of my life that shouldn't be in my life anyways. Good riddance. It's kind of like in a Bronx Tale, whenever the younger the main character, what's his name, C. So C, he's like he's trying to argue and chase after somebody. He's yelling at somebody, and he's like, man, that dude owes me $20. And then the main character, what's his name? Okay, so it's C, and it's, have y'all seen the Bronx Tale?
Yeah, I am familiar.
And then who's the main, the mafia guy?
Yeah, the rich dad, poor dad.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
What the mafia guy's name? I forget his name, but C's telling this dude like, "Hey, give me my money back." Getting real riled up, and then here comes the mafia guy. He's like, "What is that? Why you getting so upset for? Like, what are you doing?" He's like, "That dude owes me $20." He's like, "So what? He owes you $20? Did you like him? Is he your friend?" "No, he's a pain in my ass." It's like, well, then look about it like this: you gave this dude $20, and he'll never bother you for the rest of his life. It's like, that's an investment. It's like, good riddance. You know what I mean? You paid $20, and now you never have to deal with this dude ever again. And he was like, "Oh, you're right." And that's how kind of I thought about it. I was like, shoot, you know what? I paid that money. Good riddance. Never have to deal with this guy ever.
It's crazy too, because people kill over for less. A lot of people don't have that restraint that you showed.
It was tough,
I've seen
man.
it personally.
It was tough. Let me tell you, my ego was like, oh, but I'm like,
start growling.
Yeah. I'm like,
foaming at the mouth.
Yeah. It's that fuck off money.
Like, but it like how God says, "Hey, vengeance is mine." Yeah. Vengeance is mine. It ain't my job to go out there and do that. It's my God will take care of me.
It also shows more of who they are than more of who you are. You know what I'm saying? So that's something to be proud of. But to answer your question, I think the only people that can genuinely say they've ever like helped me financially is my parents. Like, that's the only ones I can think of. But I've reached a certain age.
I provided housing for this guy for nothing. No.
For nothing.
I've reached a certain age where I guess my pride and ego come into play to where I feel bad to ask them for anything, because I believe I'm more capable of figuring it out, and I'm the one that's actually out here working and gaining income rather than them. They're retired, so I don't want to put them in that predicament. And I think it's just pride and ego. I think that's bad to say. Maybe it is bad to say, but it's pride and ego for me to go out there and ask for help, just because I also believe that there's a lesson within that. When you're struggling with finances, I think that you need to figure something out. You need to figure out what lesson, and you need to change something in order to not be in that predicament again. And I think of the song by Drake, don't remember what it's called, but he says, accounts in the minus and still driving around like your highness. And I've been in so many positions where especially with this freaking business, bro, where it takes up and consumes all my money to where Raul Crow is kind of left with nothing. Like, yes, I make a decent amount of money, enough to take care of my bills, thankfully. But Raul Crow has been in so many positions where everyone else is making more money than him, and he's just barely getting along. And I think similar to you, Derek, I can only thank God for it. So he's gotten me through those times, and I don't know. You can call it pride and ego, I guess, in order for me to go out and actually ask for, hey, can you please give me money?
I don't know. You call it pride and ego, which I have too, but I think at this point I would say it's faith.
Yeah.
Because faith and confidence.
Yeah.
Because I think that what's difference between like ego and arrogance is thinking that you can do it all on your own because you're better than everyone else. But I think it's the opposite. We know that we're nothing without God. And how we kind of brought up the last podcast, we're great because God makes us great. And we're prosperous because God makes us prosperous. So whenever we're struggling, it's like, this isn't right. Like, I can get myself out of this because God doesn't want me to be struggling. God isn't, he hasn't promised me this. He's promised me, abundance. He wants me to live life and live life abundantly, fulfill in peace. He wants me to walk in peace. I shouldn't be struggling. And so, you know what, even though this is my circumstance, I know that I'm going to get out of it because this isn't the lifestyle that God has told me. He's promised me something much greater. And so I think maybe we could start switching our vocabulary from pride and ego to say faith and confidence in our abilities because God makes us strong.
Yeah, and if I'm being completely honest, faith has literally been the only thing that has kept me going along this path, along this journey. Without God, I personally would have quit a long time ago. This is year 3 going on year 4 in October, and only thing that explains the reason why I keep going and how I've made it through certain situations is God, my faith. Because leaning on your own understanding, shoot, it's true. I would have quit a long time ago, straight up.
I've asked one person for money right before my newly found faith. It was when I was going through it. And, well, obviously, the one time you swallow your pride and you're like, I'm gonna do it, right? And you do it, and it's not the answer you would think, right? It was immediately followed by 21 questions. Like, what do you need it for? What's it for? What are you doing? Like, that was a hard time in my life where the bank account was going the opposite way too much. It was like, man, it's growing, but the wrong way. And, I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to ask for the first time in my life because, I've always, as a little kid, bro, I've had people ask me for money, family members asking me, and I'm like, I'm in high school. I don't even have a job. Like, why am I being asked for money, right? But I would always give, and I never really questioned it too much. But then the one time I did ask, and for it to be a no, right, and for them to be like, nah, like, suck it up, pretty much. And me still getting out of that made me vow, like, you know what? I'll never ask again. I don't know, because I got out of that spot when I swallowed my what we called former pride and ego, before it was newly found faith. Because at that time too, I wasn't going to church. I wasn't doing this. I was still living in my bad ways. Right, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna swallow my pride and ego, and I'm gonna ask, and for it to be a slap in the face, a double L, double whammy. I'm like, man, okay. At that point, all right, it's gonna. My dad emphasizes this all the time. It's just you at the end of the day. When you lay your head on, that bed at night, it's just you and God. The only one who truly knows how busy you are, how much blood, sweat, and tears you put into anything you do is yourself and God, and whoever else, whoever else would decide to tell. Because a lot of people don't know anything. I always say, like, the people that know truly how busy I am, like, from the moment I wake up till I go to sleep, is God and myself, right? Then the next in line would be my boys, the 1 or 2 close friends. But then other than that, people just know that I'm busy, but they don't know to what extent or to what's going on behind the scenes. It's just like, oh, now he got this today. Oh, now he's doing this today. Oh, now Confessions got to Facebook. How did that happen? It's just, they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They just know, like, oh, I know these guys are busy, but I don't know how, to the T, how busy they are. And no one knows that except ourselves and God, and the little stuff we tell each other. But that's why I'm like, nah. If it ever gets to that point again, I don't think I would ask either, because it's like, and then now I got the newfound knowledge that Raul would come through. He said it. Clip it.
Hell
He did say it. Clip it. He said it.
I think you touched base on it a little bit. I think it actually calluses you when people come to you, right, and you're so quick to give. You don't bat an eye. You don't question. You may ask maybe a couple questions, right, to get a better understanding, like how much, or like, do you need it right away? Maybe a few questions like that. But it calluses you when you're so quick to give, and then you go to that person maybe, and you put your pride and ego to the side, and you finally ask for a favor, maybe even money or something outside of money, right? And you don't receive that same feedback that you gave them, and it kind of calluses you. It hurts, but I think it's also understanding. I think it discusses this in the Bible, is understanding that not everyone's going to be like you, and you can't expect for people to give the way you give either. And it does callous you overall, but it's a lesson that has to be learned and understood.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's part of an example that we could take from Abram, right?
Yeah.
There was strife between him and Lot. And so, you know what? Let's put my pride and let's put my ego to the side. You know what? I'll let you choose whichever land you want to take. You take it. You could look at it. Look all around us. God promised this all to us. Go ahead and take whatever you want. He didn't say, well, I want this. You go to this corner, the ugly corner. He said, pick whatever you want. Probably knowing the fact that he was probably going to pick the nicer part. And he did. And then guess what? Lot got in trouble. He got kidnapped. And instead of Abram saying, well, we could have been together. We could have stayed like this, but you chose to go your separate ways. So forget you. But he didn't do that. What did he do? He got all of his men and went out and fought battles against kings to get him back. And then what did he do whenever he got him back? He said, I'm going to bring back your possessions and then all the women and the people that were with you. And then he just let him go. Like, I think that's part of I don't even know what to say, because I think even that right there, that's baller. Like, imagine someone did you so wrong, so dirty, and you know what? You still got to go out of your way to get them out of a hole and say, you don't owe me nothing. Just keep moving. And it's just like, what can anyone else even say? How could they react to that?
Yeah.
And that's where you got to say, like, no, that's God right there. Because I would have, forget you. I hate you. You're going to owe me this. I'm taking this right here. You know what I mean? I'm taking all your possessions. But to be able to say, you know what? No, I don't want nothing. Just go your own way. If you need help, call me. You know what I mean? Because it's not even for him at this point.
Yeah.
So I think that's powerful.
I think it's knowing your role, and the crown is heavy to whoever it's bestowed to, and you won't receive the same treatment as you give others. And I believe that's where your faith truly has to come in, and understand that the only true person that can give you what you truly want is God.
Yeah, it's powerful. That was good. Hey, we got a lot out of that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That first one, we would not have poured that much, but that second one is where all the...
It's called milking. All right. Now we're on to Matthew. We're at 25. The second half of 24. No, we're at the second half of 24.
29, right? Verse 29?
Verse...
Or 32.
We're in 32. Yeah, 32 for whichever one y'all.
I'll take this.
So those of y'all that are that are still with us, thank you for everyone that's in here watching. If you watched this far, hit that subscribe button. We're in Matthew 24, verse 32. So you can turn to your Bible at this time. And yeah, whichever one y'all want to take it over.
Yeah, I'll take it. Matthew chapter 24, verse 32, the lesson of the fig tree. From the fig tree, learn its lessons. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. The necessity for watchfulness. But about the day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two will be in the field, one will be taken, and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding meal together, one will be taken, and one will be left. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night that the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake, and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. The faithful or the unfaithful slave. Who then is the faithful and wise slave, whom his master has put in charge of his household to give the other slaves their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly, I tell you, he will put that one in charge for all his possessions. But if the wicked slave says to himself, my master is delayed, and he begins to beat his fellow slaves, and eats and drinks with drunkards, the master of the slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, at an hour that he does not know. He will cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew chapter 24. That was deep.
That was.
Yeah.
There was one specific verse.
Did we discuss the previous?
Yeah. We talked about it whenever we finished, wrapped up the last pod. But this right here, I think, I don't know, when I saw it, I thought that it was pretty powerful. Was it in the very beginning? No, it was on this side. He says in 34, he says, this is Jesus talking. In verse 34, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Whenever I heard that, I was like, dang, that's powerful, because it's Jesus came, lived a life, and so have billions of people, right? But what the message that he brought is immortal, as the Son of God, and bringing salvation. And as much as people have tried to deny Christianity, as much as people have tried to silence Christianity, it remains strong, because it is the way, the truth of the life, through Jesus. And I think him saying that, I don't know, I just, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. And I don't know, man, it's just, when I read that, I just think, like, wow, it gets me speechless, because we can only hope to have that effect, to be able to say, you know what, one day I'll die, but what I did on this earth, what I was able to say, that'll live forever. My message will be immortalized. My kids, generations. Think about it. Like, if you can think back even to 1900s, think about how far that is for us, right? But this has been over 2,000 years, and Jesus is still the King of Kings. Like, number one above all, everyone knows Jesus, and he hasn't been on this earth for 2,000 years. So to have that immortalized, I mean, we can only hope for that, but of course, it's Jesus Christ, the one that did that. I don't know, man. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, that was a good one. So what does it mean when it's saying heaven will also pass away? Is that not the place where it's supposed to be, like, eternal?
Well, like, heaven isn't the final destination.
Okay.
The final destination is the New Jerusalem. At the end, everyone who has died will be resurrected, and Jesus will create the New Jerusalem here on earth. It'll be paradise. So heaven isn't necessarily the end. It's just the place that we go until Jesus comes back.
Interesting. I just learned that.
That's something new for me.
Mm-hmm. That's in Revelations. That's in Revelations. But
that's what I was.
That's more theology.
That's what I was thinking. That this second part, the necessity for the watchfulness, 36 through 44. I was thinking of like Revelations. I'm not too familiar with Revelations, of course, but kind of how it was discussing as if it was the end of time and that we won't know, of course, when it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. And how it's describing that one person's going to be taken and the other person's going to be left behind. Mm-hmm. Would you kind of connect that to Revelations, or what would you connect that to?
Well, Revelations is the apocalyptic literature in the Bible, and it's exactly how he's saying. So whenever the Son of Man, whenever Jesus comes and takes his people, he's gonna. It says that 7 years there will be 7-year period during the rapture, whenever Jesus comes back, and there'll be 3.5 years of peace when the Antichrist will come, and he will unite all the nations and all the world, and then 3.5 years after that, that's whenever he's gonna do all the things where he basically forces people to get the mark of the beast. Whoever doesn't will get beheaded, and that's how it'll be 3.5 years of peace, and then 3.5 years of destruction. Weeping and gnashing of teeth, kind of that part, and all of God's people, all of Jesus' people, will be taken up to heaven to not experience that. And then after all of that's done, Jesus will come and build his kingdom here in Jerusalem, or build his new Jerusalem. It says that he'll come through Israel, but he'll build his new Jerusalem, and then everyone will be resurrected that is a follower of Christ, and experience paradise here on earth. But that's Revelation is kind of a very difficult book to read. I wouldn't even try to attempt it unless you're like already deep within understanding the rest of the Bible. But
that's something you need your tinfoil hat on. Like, because if people were to hear that, they'd be like, "Man, this guy's crazy. What is he talking about?" Is that kind of like something like you would see people preaching on the corners? It is usually from Revelations.
Yeah, I guess you could say so. But in general, what Jesus is pretty much saying here is that the message that he's trying to say isn't necessarily to scare you or he's trying to give you signs as a warning, but he's not saying to get in your shelters and whatever, start storing food and water, but he's saying be ready, because how he says right here is in 42, therefore be on the alert, for you do not know which day your Lord is coming. But be sure of this, that if the head of the house had known what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have not been on the alert and would have not allowed his house to be broken into. For this reason you must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not think he will. So
that's deep. That's good.
It's kind of like how we always say, like, stay ready so you don't got to get it. So you don't got to get ready. And I think that's the part of it where it's like, if you knew that you were going to die, tomorrow, like, how would you live your life? It's kind of like, if you knew Jesus was coming back tomorrow, would you be prepared for it? Would you be ready? Would you be able to say that you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you're confident that when he comes, you're going to be one of the ones that doesn't have to go through the, all of the things that are going to happen? And so I think that's the whole part of it, because once he comes, and if you're not taken, then I believe that you have to deny the mark of the beast, and by denying it from the Antichrist, you'll be beheaded. So that might be your only opportunity afterwards.
I've heard a few versions of that part right there where if you denied your faith that you would be killed in some shape or form, and I'm like, hang. At least that part of Revelations is real popular because it's like showing the seriousness of his return. For me though, that last reading kind of reminds me of, we always relate everything back to athletics, integrity, doing the right thing when no one is looking, or when the coach turns around and you're doing planks, so you're gonna put your knee on the floor, or you're gonna put your knee on the floor when you're doing push-ups. It's comparing good servants that are always doing their job, no matter the time that the master comes home, compared to the servant that who knows what he's doing when the master's not home, right? He could be, it says, getting drunk with drunkards. What else? Eating all his food and drinking all his drinks. The wicked servant,
beating his fellows,
right? Yeah. And it's like he's doing that while the master's gone, and then one day the master's gonna come and catch him in the act, and it's like, hey, you're not who you've been. You've been telling me who you are. You're putting on this whole facade. You're not who you say you are. Compared to where I can just kind of equate it to Jesus coming, and like you say, if he comes tomorrow, how would you react if you knew, right? But what if he comes right now? What would he catch you doing? Would he catch you being a faithful servant or the fake servant? Like, I'm just gonna do the right thing on Sundays. Or I'm only gonna do the right thing around my friends. But as soon as that mask goes back on, stuff like that, or you're sharing all this knowledge you have on confessions, and then you go and do the complete opposite, on your social media platforms or whatever you do. You think that's kind of what this paragraph could be talking about?
Absolutely. I think that he's warning against living that double life, being lukewarm, sitting on the fence, right? He's warning to the people that do live double lives, that on the one hand they go to church on Sundays, they lift their hands up for praise and worship, they read out of the Bible, whatever, on Sundays, maybe even on Wednesdays they go to fellowship or something like that. But then every other day out of the week, they live life however they want to live life. They're their own God. They follow their own rules. Those people are the ones that God is calling out and saying, hey, am I going to be the one whenever I come back that I'm going to catch you doing something that you're not supposed to be doing? It's like you say that you're a follower of mine. You proclaim to be, at least, but prove it. Prove it. It's one thing to say it. It's one thing to do it on Sundays. It's another to do it all the time, to be truly about it. And I think the thing is too, is like, once you do fully embrace like the way of Jesus, once you embrace that lifestyle, it affects everything. It changes everything you do. It changes the people that you associate with. It affects the activities that you go out to do. It affects the way that you interact with people. It affects the way you do business or the way you do school. It affects every single part of your life, to where if you see someone and they say that they're a follower of Christ, you'll be able to tell because, okay, let's see how they live their life. Let's see. It's going to be wide. It's going to be on display in 4K. Let's see if they actually are about it, or if they just say it because they want to try to make themselves feel better. And I think we all struggle with that because we're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. No one is perfect. And when you think about what the standard is, it's perfection. Our standard is following and living the life that Jesus Christ had lived. He set the ultimate example for us, and every single one of us falls short. So it's by faith through grace in Christ Jesus that his resurrection was enough to pay my debt, to pay my judgment. He paid it in full in my place. I put my faith in him. And because of that, it's like, wow, I just got saved from the place of weeping and gnashing of teeth. I got saved from hell because he paid my debt on my behalf, not knowing who I am, not knowing that I would reject him, not knowing I would turn my back on him, not knowing that I would live my life doing everything that he says not to do. He paid that price for me. So now I'm eternally grateful. And now I'm going to start living my life in accordance to what he says, because it's not just that it's better for my life, but it's because I want to thank him and glorify him because he saved me even though I didn't deserve it. And so that's why I think that whenever you are a follower, it comes over everything, because you recognize that he paid the ultimate price on your behalf, because the wages of sin is death. The suffering that he endured on the cross. And even before that, whenever he was getting whipped and he was had to carry the cross however long up a mountain, like, and all of that, he endured that price. He was in our place. It was supposed to be you. It was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be there because I'm a sinner, but he paid it for us. And because I know that, shoot, God, I've given my whole life to you. I owe it. I owe it to you. I'm grateful. So now I'm going to make sure that every single thing I do in my life is in reflection and in gratitude for that. But if you don't, I guess, really understand the magnitude of what he did for us, it's difficult to start to change your whole lifestyle for that because you don't appreciate it. Maybe because you don't understand it, maybe because you don't want to accept it, because there's plenty of people who know that Jesus died for them, but they don't want to accept it anyways because they want to live their own lifestyle. So, but I think it all boils down to gratitude that he paid the price that we should have paid. So
that kind of gets me thinking of another question too. There's no timeline to that feeling, right? Because I don't know. This is just kind of a war that I'm going on with myself. It's probably nothing, but I still like when I go to Christian churches, right? I'm still dabbling in all of that. When they're doing their praise and worship, I can never find myself, lifting up my hands or hands out singing because I feel it. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm too cool for that, or no, not it has nothing to do with that. It's more like, well, why? I'm standing up, I'm being grateful, but sometimes I think about, well, is it bad that I'm not feeling that feeling? Like, is it bad that I don't want to, I'm still here worshiping, I'm happy, but I just don't have the feeling to, clap and dance and jump. And although I know no one would judge and it has nothing to do with being cool, right? Because I'm too grown for that now, but it's like, I don't want to do it either to just fit in and force myself to do it if I'm not feeling it. So that's kind of a conflict that I'm having because, I mean, I give myself grace though because I am on a good journey. I'm only doing this. It's going on a year and a half, maybe. Seriously, I had my whole life and had all these questions and no one really to guide me, although people did their best. And I feel like I'm doing a lot better than people who've been doing it their whole lives. And I mean that in a humble way. I'm not trying to, drag anybody down or anything like that, but it's like I'm doing very good for what I've known and the amount of time I've learned. And you've been doing it your whole life and you act like, just in general, for like people that I've talked to or experienced or kind of noticed, and they're the worst ones. They can be some of the worst ones. And it just kind of gets me thinking, so there's no timeline in it. It's everybody's journeys their own. So in a sense, could you say that church isn't really even, I think I've asked this before, is church like a main priority of your faith or in your walk with your journey through faith with him?
I can actually relate to you too when you discuss you can't really feel that urge or like the want to start jumping up and down and singing and praising. And I see that in a lot of people. And I genuinely believe some people genuinely do have that feeling. And I believe somewhere in the Bible, my nephew was talking to me about this, that there were, I believe, prophets that would dance and do like praises and stuff like that to Jesus. But for me personally, I just can't. I don't find myself being genuine in doing that. And that's where I really enjoy being Catholic, because it's more me. I'm very stoic, I'm very serious, and my praising is getting down on my hands and knees in the pew and praying to him. And don't get it wrong, there's still songs that they sing and we clap to, but it's not as energetic as your standard Christian church. But yeah, I can relate to you when it comes to that.
And I hear and I understand where you are coming from, because even being Protestant my whole life, right? It's something that you see, every Sunday. And so I think this is one thing that one of my pastors had brought up. And if you can go to a football game or a baseball game or something like that, and you can cheer for your team who didn't pay your salvation, who doesn't give you any money, doesn't give you anything in return, maybe gives you more heartache if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan like me, then why can't you do the same for God, who literally paid the price for you, who literally came down, died on your behalf so that you wouldn't experience hell? Yeah, you can support these teams, you can support these celebrities, and you can go and clap and cheer for them, but you won't do the same for Jesus. And so that right there is something that was put on my heart, and I had to internalize a little bit and think to myself, well, what does praise really look like? And I think praise can take a bunch of different forms. Mm-hmm. Kind of how you mentioned, praise could be you lifting up your hands, singing out loud, and jumping up and down. You know, my mother is the strongest woman of faith that I know, and she loves to sing. She loves to put her hands up in the air. She loves to dance and jump for joy. She's like, I'm rejoicing because that's my father. Like, he died for me. He died in my place. I'm eternally grateful. And her way of representing that is through dance, through jumping, through joy, right? And then, you know, you look at someone else like my father, right, who's a follower of Christ. He's more stoic as well. He'll lift his hands up, he'll pray, but he doesn't go to that extent to jump for joy and things like that. But I think it's just a matter of what you believe is your way of representing Christ. What's your way of praising God? Because you could praise God as simple as just saying, man, thank you. I mean, it could be humming along to words of a song and just thinking like, man, God, thank you so much. Yeah. I think it's just a matter of what's your version of praise and worship.
Yeah,
and
I think
it's different for everyone.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the button, just because how I see it, I'm like, that's my father up in heaven. That's my father. I'm gonna show him the utmost respect. I'm gonna act straight as a nail, right? And when it does come to praising, for example, when we do confessions and we discuss about Jesus, we discuss about God, we have nothing but great things to talk about. We get happy when we talk about God. We get serious when we talk about God, and that in itself is praise, exactly how you're mentioning. So I think you hit it right on the dot. It's different for every single person, and some people may be very energetic, very jumping and dancing and singing along. Others may be a little bit more stoic, and you know, I catch myself personally sometimes just closing my eyes and, you know, singing along with the song, where it's very gentle and soothing, you know, and that's praising. That in itself is praising.
It's good to know. Even if something like this can be praise, right?
Exactly.
Because I mean, I'm trying to be that good servant, and I'm trying to do right when no one's looking. But you know, I'm my own worst critic, and I'm gonna hold myself accountable the most. I'm like, hey, what's wrong with me? Why am I not feeling that urge to jump for joy? Like, am I like, did I do something wrong? Like, you know, you start being an overthinker like me too. You start thinking all these things. What did I do wrong? Like, is my faith, is my relationship weakening like already? Right? Did it already peak? Or, you know, you start overthinking like that. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm still doing good for what the tools I have and the cards I've been dealt, you know, and that says a lot. And it always takes me back to, he knows your intentions, he knows where your heart is. Don't sweat too much about it.
And something else that you were mentioning about going to church, like, yeah, we need to go to church in order to receive the word and learn more, right? But at the end of the day, that genuine connections between you and God, you know.
Well, when you think about the reason why Jesus founded the church, I mean, he told us that we need to be around other followers. We need to be around people that can hold us accountable, and that's the whole purpose of the church, is for us to be in unity as a group. Because when you think about anything, that if you want to start a movement, you can't do it by yourself. You need an army of people, and guess what? There's an army of the rest of the world that doesn't follow God, and they're all coming together. You know what I mean? So that's what the whole purpose of the church is, to come together in a place and unite as one, so that we can all, you know, grow in Christ together, and then go out into the world and spread the message, right? That's the whole purpose of church. And so I think that we should want to be in church. You know, that's a byproduct of being a follower of Christ. You know, it's not necessary to your salvation, but as someone who is saved, it's something that you do because you know that you need it, because God called us to be in groups. I mean, think about it. Jesus had 12 disciples with him. You know what I mean? If Jesus himself needed a community, then who am I to say that I don't need a community to be with? You know what I mean? So So I would say church is something that you do need as a follower of Christ, because you can't do it on your own, man. It's that's not how we're wired. Humans are pack animals, and if you're not with a church community, you're going to be involved in some community. Who knows where? Who knows who it might be? Might as well be with a community of followers.
And I think something that you kind of mentioned was how we're wired. And naturally, because we're in those groups, we're going to kind of pick at each other and notice our faults. I think that's just something that humans do. We notice, like, oh, yeah, he's over here acting all high and mighty, but look, in reality, what he's actually doing. I think it's just something natural that all humans do, right? But at the end of the day, I think God reminds us to be better than that, you know?
Okay. That kind of leads me to another question. I get it, yeah, right? But that's actually that's a good answer for this question too. Like, you think there's more room for accountability in those faith-centered communities? Because it's like, hey, well, I got my friends, we're all on the same page, but I'm gonna be more, I don't know what the right word would be, likely, comfortable to slip up and throw out a cuss word, in front of my friends who are also faith-centered, compared to my church community. I'm gonna feel like at the end of the world if I throw an F-bomb on accident or an S word on accident, right? But with y'all, it would be like, oh, my bad. Y'all wouldn't really trip on it as much. But I feel like in the faith-centered community, there's more, I don't know, I don't want to say judgment, but accountability. Mm-hmm. They're holding more accountability to you. Mm-hmm. So even more so, you're going to be even more under a microscope, because we already are doing a faith-centered podcast, on all these platforms. Now we're getting more out there, and it just kind of puts us under the microscope even more. It's like really no room for error. So, and like you say, we're still human. We're still, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna mess up every now and then, but it's like, hey.
I was like how we've always said, pressure is a privilege, and the fact that people are watching, and I think that in and of itself is an opportunity to reach more people and give them the opportunity to reach God and read the gospel. And I think that that's something that's powerful that we should be doing in our communities, is spreading the word. But as far as like me personally, it does also hold me accountable, because now someone approaches me and they talk about the pod. It's like, oh shoot, now I got to make sure I reflect God in the right way. Not trying to be fake, not trying to put on the facade, but here's part of the process, right? Fake it till you make it. That's a term that everyone applies to whenever they want to be something, right? And so for me, when I hear fake it till you make it, it could literally be me like, you know what? Maybe I'm not the most perfect Christian. Maybe I'm not someone who understands the word as much as someone else. I still slip up here and there more so than probably the typical Christian, right? But if someone approaches me, shoot, I'm going to be the best Christian on this earth, right? And then eventually, after a long enough period of time of faking it, I become that. Because maybe your faking is just you trying it. You're being more intentional about it. And after you do it for so long, shoot, now you're no longer faking it, because that's just the life that you live now. So I think for us, as at least for people who are like still early Christians, early believers, sometimes it is as simple as, you know what, I got to fake it. Because, and not in a bad sense, what I mean by fake it is it's hard to break those habits that have been instilled in you for so long. Those habits to curse, to lust, to abuse alcohol, to go out and party, to do things that are not of God. It's hard to break those habits if you've been doing that your whole life. And some people, they experience breakthrough right away. By all means, good for them. But some people, it's a little bit more difficult. Sometimes they got to touch the stove over and over and over again before they learn their lesson. And so for you can't be discouraged or give up whenever you do slip up. You can't do that. So what do? You know what? I messed up. I'm just going to continue to fake it. I'm going to be a good Christian. I'm a good follower of Christ. I'm kind of faking it because I still slip up. But then eventually those habits that you build on the other side, now you're like, I'm not cussing as much. I'm not lusting after women. I'm not drinking as much. I'm not going out to the clubs as much. Now it's like the lifestyle has started to change. You start to change to where you're no longer faking it. You're actually doing it. And that's who you are. You assume the role that you want it to be, right? I think that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, because I think I'm at this point in my faith journey where I think a lot of people could relate That's the great thing about Confessions podcast. We got, what would you say? You're a seasoned veteran, or you still got a long way to go? I mean, you're definitely the most knowledgeable, and I'm grateful to have that. Me, I'm a quick learner, but I guess you would say, a new Christian, still trying to figure all this out. Me and you can relate a lot of it, but you're more on the Catholic side as well. So I think that's great that we have like a Christian, more of a Catholic, and then me just being the student wanting to learn, and and then that helps out the viewers a lot too, because they probably have the same questions as me, especially if they're new believers as well. But those were some of the things that I've been kind of just getting from the reading today, is like those little things. I guess it's not, now I'm at a point where I have to like detail oriented, fine tune. You've taken care of the big things, you're on the right path, but now let's get those details going, and I think that's the part where I'm at.
Yeah, it's literally the journey that you're talking about. When you become a newborn Christian, it's like, all right, cool, I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior. He paid my price, and I'm going to heaven because of it. Now what?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Now what? You can't. A lot of people, guess what? That's all they do, and they stay there, and they just like, now they go on and live their lives however they want, and it's like, and then whenever they hear some bad news, then they go back to God. You know what I mean? And that's not what you want. What you cannot stay a baby Christian. You can't stay being an infant your whole life. That's why whenever we talk about being a follower of Christ, when you first make that conversion, they say that you're born again. That's why Jesus says you have to be born again. You have to renew your mind, because it's literally shedding away your old lifestyle and becoming like a child. He says to be like children. And so now that you've joined this, the army of Christ, it's like, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm kind of like a child in some sense. And so you need some guidance, and I'm glad that your personality in and of itself is just naturally curious. So that helps out a lot with you thinking, because you don't think on the surface level, you like to go deeper. And so by having people around you that can maybe shed some light on some of the questions, that's good to help you grow. And I encourage you to keep having that, always have that, and always seek to grow, because it's just like in anything else in life. If you go to the gym one time, lift some weights, and then never go again, it's like, you made no progression whatsoever. And so you have to continually show up, continually read the Bible, continually be in prayer, continue to ask those questions, and seek the kingdom. Continue to do it, and then eventually you'll grow naturally. That's the only outcome. So yeah.
Now that we're on this topic, I do have a confession to make. In the wise words of Biggie Smalls, he says, "I'm a piece of shit and it ain't hard to tell." Naturally, we're sinners. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect, right? But because of my faith, and because I have a very driven personality, I'm constantly seeking to do better, to grow, to achieve more. And I like to relate that to my faith as well, because naturally I have such a high standard for myself, of course. But the more I grow in faith, the more I start to realize that the standard continues to rise and rise and rise as I continue to learn more and more about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And we discussed this over and over and over. He's literally the perfect example of what we should be. And all we can do is just strive so far to try to achieve that. And naturally, we're going to fall short. And based off my experience, I'm far from perfect, but that pedestal, I don't see anyone putting me on a pedestal. Yeah, they may do it, right? But I believe that I put myself on an even higher pedestal, even higher standard. And that, in consequence, allows me to take that pressure off of myself that these viewers, that these people may have on me, just because my standard is just, theirs is here. I like living life like this. And that's what I strive for, because Jesus Christ is all the way up there. And I'm just only shooting for it. And from the moment that I did that, or change that. And I don't know what happened to me, if I was just born this way, trauma, whatever. But the moment I started doing that, I noticed consistent growth for myself, and then you just keep on raising that bar over and over and over. And I love the analogy that Derek just used. You start the gym, right? You start that journey. You start lifting that weight, and at first you're squatting the bar, and that's hard, right? Then inevitably you grow, you become stronger, you go to 1 plate, 2 plates, etc., right? But once you start that journey, you have to continuously go. Because let's just say you stop going to the gym. You're going to lose all your progress. You still have to maintain it. And the question is, what is that limit? How far can you push yourself? How much more can Jerome, how much more can Raul Derizzi do? You know, and luckily for us, we're still youthful, and I don't believe any of us have reached that limit yet. And I'm excited, maybe even anxious to be able to see how far we'll be able to go in this beautiful life.
Exactly. And I think that kind of how you mentioned, like, you start off in the gym, you start working out, maybe you meet some people there, you start a community, maybe that branches off into something completely different. I think that when we start this journey, we don't know exactly what the road what it's going to look like. We don't know the journey, we don't know the path, but we know that we started it and that we need it, and we just continue to show up and do it. And then one thing leads to another, and now we're here. And it's like, wow, I couldn't imagine my life being where it's at right now. Just imagine the next 5 years. Imagine the next 10 years. Like, one thing that I heard Tony Robbins say, and I've said it before, but it's like, we overestimate what we can accomplish in a couple of months to a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And I think that we need to start being more, we need to extrapolate ourselves and look more from a bigger perspective, look long term. Like, sure, Brother Jerome, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers are, newer Christians, and they're just curious and looking for direction. And that's exciting. That's great. And I think that looking down the road, eventually, it's like, it'll be the opposite. Now Jeremy's going to be the one answering questions to the younger version of Jerome. You know what I mean? He's like, what do I do? I don't know where to go.
And in a way, you already kind of do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the thing is, too, that's what's incredible about it, because by you taking the leap of faith and choosing to follow God, the people around you that have no experience whatsoever, they see you and they're like, Jeremy, how are you doing that? Like, how like, you seem so much more wise. You seem much more peaceful. You seem much more fulfilled in life. What's your secret? And you're like, you know what? I don't have a secret. It's God, right? You can give it all to God and say, you know what? I'm learning. I'm still human. I'm still new to this. I know just as much as you do, probably. Maybe just a little more, but I'm not going to give myself too much credit. So if I can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's great about it, is that we can see people turn their lives around. We can see people give their life to Christ that maybe they're the ones that everyone gave up on, and now they're starting to win. It's like, how did this person do it? You know what I mean? I think that's what's beautiful about living a life with Christ, is that he takes even the smallest, weakest, the people that everyone else gave up on, and he turns them into something great, something special. And so I think that's just a prime example of, as a new Christian, like, shoot, you have the opportunity now to start reaching people. You have the opportunity now to start touching your family members, your close friends, the people that you know that are not living for God. You have the ability to reach them. And that's what I'm saying. That's part of the fake it till you make it part, though.
Yeah. So that literally gets me going. And, going back to that, the only update, I guess you could say, that people see of me on social media is through confessions, is through, our YouTube, whether it's Instagram, now Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Nobody really knows what I got going on, right? They only know what's going on when they're watching confessions. And I kind of put two and two together. I'm like, hey, they're seeing all this growth. The only update they get of me, if they don't talk to me personally, is through supporting the podcast. And it's like, it kind of got me thinking about that video diary. We're kind of doing it already, or in a way I am. how, we're just tracking our growth and they're seeing it. I mean, the only time they see me is through this, right? I rarely, post anything on social media for myself because I don't have no business or anything. So this is my business. And it's always crazy to me now I'm really under the microscope, now it's like next week I'm on I say on the Confessions podcast, yeah, I ended up getting arrested or something like that, right? That'll be the only time people know that I got in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to see, like, yeah, I'm going through this in real time just like they are. And I think that's the exciting part that kind of gets me like, hey, I'm kind of like the test subject in a way.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny because I was telling Raul this. I was like, bro, whenever we went to your family's house, it was like, wow, they already knew us because they know the podcast. Of course, they know me. They know Raul. But imagine whenever we go somewhere else to another city and we see people and they're like, yo, Jeremy, Raul, Derek, you know what I mean? How's it going? How's the business? You know what I mean? And they start knowing, they know us because we put ourselves online like that. And so I think that's something that'll be really interesting to see. But imagine they run into us and we're like, man, F off, like, screw you, man. Like, you have to pay me money if you want a picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then they'll go tell everyone, oh, these guys, they're not really about it.
That's one thing I've noticed too, is a lot like especially, I don't know, I guess Facebook was another hidden method, because now my family, that's all they talk about. They're sharing it a lot, liking it a lot. And
yeah, no.
at first they were, kind of, what we always say, they're doing it again. They're doing it again. But now that they see, like, oh shoot, what do we got here? Maybe it's finally the diamond in the rough type of thing. So getting a lot more support from them now kind of just gets me thinking, like, dang, I really can't mess up in front of my family. I can't fight with them now. I can't speak my mind because they're gonna be like, yeah. But I just, it's part of the process, I guess.
I think the cool part about that, right, is when you first started off on your journey, everyone just looked at you and said, oh, that's cute, have fun, whatever. And then they see you do it for a little while and they're like, oh, he's really doing it, good for him, you know what I mean? And then you start to make some real progress. And then next thing you know, you're everywhere. They start to see you more and more, right? And at first, maybe they didn't believe in you, but you made them start to believe because of your hard work. You went from being someone who was undesirable and you became undeniable. People cannot deny the progress because you show them the progress. People cannot deny how much you've grown because it's in their face in 4K, whether or not they want to see it or not. Whether or not they want to accept your growth, whether or not they want to accept the fact that you're actually doing the thing, it doesn't matter because you're doing it anyways. And I think that's the cool part about it is before it was just a pipe dream, but now it's becoming something that's real, and they can believe in it. They cannot believe in it. It's happening anyways. But it's cool to see that, like, your family shows so much support as my family does. I've seen your family members as well. And then even people that we don't even talk to that often, like people that we don't talk to, we don't know at all. You know what I mean? That's kind of like that one tweet that I saw, Jake Paul, that said, he's like, you're the person who supports you the most is an absolute stranger, and your biggest hater is someone that you know. It's like, wow, it's kind of crazy to think about. It's like, wow, someone that doesn't know who I am at all supports me more than people that I grew up with, people that I knew my whole life. And it's hard to wrap my head around that, but it just goes to show you, like, whenever Jesus had mentioned, he's like, whenever you go back to your homeland, that's people they don't like you. They don't want to see you because you're a reflection on their inadequacies, on their shortcomings, because it could rub you the wrong way to see someone doing better than you. People want to see you do well, but they don't want to see you do better than they do. So whenever you go out into the world, and as we continue to do this, it's like, I'm not having those expectations that people are going to support us. I'm not having the expectations that people are going to show us love. I'm just doing this because I'm trying to glorify the Most High. And one, I'm trying to prove myself right? Like, because from day one, I've said I believe in this. From day one, I said we can do this thing, and I believe wholeheartedly that we have the capability to do so. You see all those people speaking nonsense that blow up on the internet. If they can do it, so can we. And so that's, maybe you can call that delusional optimism, but I'm the one to say if I see someone do it, I can do it too. And
no, yeah, you've always believed in that wholeheartedly. You've always said that You know, you can see us doing it, and it's happening slowly right before our eyes. Maybe not to that full scale that we have envisioned, but just seeing it unfold a little bit, it's like, dang, this is what it was. This is what it was all for right here, working towards.
Everyone started off like this. Everyone started off with no followers to some followers, and then some followers became more. You know, and then it just kind of it compounds. But like I said, this is an exponential kind of game.
From nothing to something, and then to everything.
And then, yeah, exactly. Clip it. It's a bar right there. See, we got a few right here. Right? And it even gets me thinking about too, right? That people just see this update of us, right? But then, as a byproduct of doing this, you know, you got a few more houses you sold. Your business is doing good. You know, I got that internship and graduated onto the next step. It's like, hey, these are just byproducts of this. You know, and it's like, I'm not putting this down, like, you know, for example, I'm not putting my internship or whatever down people's throats who also apply, saying I'm better than you. But if they ask what's the difference is, maybe that's the, you know, maybe that's the, you know, come on. Because I always do it real okay. I'm just, you know, just behind the scenes, always working. And I think now that people can actually see, like, oh, what's good, because y'all know me, I just like to be, you know, like just working, and all of a sudden it popped out, dang, just, you know, kind of like how you said, dang, what are you doing with the ring on your finger one day? Or what are you doing with kids? Or what are you doing with the degree? What are you doing with, you know, that's just, I think that's the fun part about it too. It's just surprising people, and they're like, what the heck? And it's like, hey, subscribe to the number one podcast in the world, Confessions Podcast.
Follow along. I mean, whether or not you follow or not, you're going to see us.
Exactly.
We're here to stay. So that was a good episode. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts from either of y'all?
God bless.
God bless.
Subscribe to the number one podcast in the world, Confessions Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, liking, commenting, subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll catch you on the next one very soon. And follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And we're going to be on LinkedIn probably. And then follow us on Spotify. Soon. All the good things. And thank you for all of y'all's continued support. For all y'all viewers that watch all the way through, watch all of our clips and all of our videos and everything. We appreciate every single one of y'all. And we hope that y'all actually do get something positive from this. This is what it's all about. So, and thank you to all the people that have been commenting on the clips and on the videos. Like everyone's, you know, we've gotten some comments and, you know, some positive, some negative, but
yeah, I see a few that question what we say sometimes. I was like, hey, engagement's engagement.
Shout out to the 190 subscribers that we have now. Wait, and all the followers across all social medias. Shout out you. Whoops. Shout out you.
I wonder, actually, hold this. I want to put it on the ground. I wonder where we're at right now. Just so I can see.
My phone's dead. We got to be at least 190. At
least 10,000.
What'd I tell you?
191.
Bro, give me your right hand, bro. There we go.
2 subscribers just over this. Hey, which means, the next episode, we're going to be at over 200 subscribers.
Yep.
Next episode, over 200. Well, we've been saying road to 200 subscribers for forever, it feels like. Road to 250.
Road to
250, which by 250, that'll be the week after.
Yeah.
Most likely, the way we're going. We got to keep
at a quarter.
Keep spitting some bars there. Keep spitting some bars. We'll get there.
All of us. We need to get better. We need to get better at getting clips. But
Clip it.
Y'all help us out. Leave some comments down below. All right. We love y'all. Catch you on the next